What if your soul has a direction? There is something in the birth chart that most people never examine. Not because it is hidden, not because it is complicated, but because it points at something that most modern frameworks, psychological, philosophical, even spiritual, find deeply uncomfortable to discuss. Something that implies a kind of continuity that extends beyond the boundaries of a single lifetime. Something that suggests that the restlessness you feel in certain areas of your life and the magnetic pull you feel toward others is not random. Not the product of circumstance or conditioning or personality alone, but the expression of a direction that is older than this life and longer than it. It is called the Nodal Axis, the north node and the south node of the moon. And what they describe, if you are willing to sit with the possibility, may be the most personally precise and the most spiritually significant information in the entire birth chart. The nodes are not planets, they are points. The two places where the moon's orbit intersects the plane of the Earth's orbit around the sun. They are always exactly opposite each other in the chart, forming an axis that divides the zodiac into two poles. And they move slowly, spending approximately 18 months in each sign, completing a full cycle of the zodiac in approximately 18 and a half years. In traditional astrology, and in the Vedic tradition even more explicitly, the nodes represent the axis of karma and destiny. The south node describes what is familiar, what comes naturally, what the soul has already developed and integrated across many lifetimes of experience. The north node describes what is new, what is uncomfortable, what the soul is moving toward in this life, the direction of growth, the edge of development, the territory that must be entered even though it does not yet feel like home. This is not a belief system. It is an invitation to notice something. Because most people spend their lives gravitating toward the south node, toward what is comfortable, what is automatic, what feels known. The south node is the path of least resistance. It is where your natural gifts live, where things come easily, where you feel immediately competent and at home. And for the first portion of life, living from the south node is not only understandable, it is probably necessary. You need to know what you are good at before you can begin to grow beyond it. But at a certain point, usually around the first nodal return, at age 18 and a half, and more powerfully at the second around 37, the south node begins to feel like a trap. The very things that once brought competence and comfort begin to feel limiting. The gifts that once felt like strengths begin to feel like crutches. The familiar territory begins to feel like a room you have been in too long. And the north node, distant, uncomfortable, unfamiliar, begins to exert its pull. And the question the nodal axis asks is always the same. Are you willing to move? Because the north node does not promise comfort. It does not promise immediate success or effortless competence or the feeling of already knowing what you are doing. It promises growth, which means it promises difficulty and awkwardness and the particular discomfort of being a beginner at something your soul is being called to master. Let us make this concrete. The person with the south node in Aries and the north node in Libra has spent lifetimes, or at least this lifetime's early years, developing independence, self-sufficiency, the capacity to act alone, to trust their own instincts, to move forward without needing anyone else's input or approval. These are real strengths. The Aries south node person knows how to act. They know how to begin. They know how to fight for what they want. But the north node in Libra is calling them towards something they have never fully developed. The capacity for genuine partnership. the ability to truly consider another perspective before acting, the willingness to find the solution that works for everyone, not just the one that feels right to them personally. This does not come naturally. It requires the surrender of a self-sufficiency that has become, without the person realizing it, a kind of isolation. They are extraordinarily good at relationship, but the North Node in Aries is calling them towards something terrifying: the capacity to act from their own authority without consensus, without the approval of others, without the need to make everyone comfortable before they can move. The person with the South Node in Capricorn and the North Node in Cancer has developed remarkable competence in the outer world, in career, in achievement, in the structures and hierarchies of professional life. But the North Node in Cancer is calling them home, not to a physical place, but to an inner home, to the emotional life they have sacrificed for achievement, to the vulnerability they have avoided in the name of competence, to the nourishment they have never allowed themselves to receive because receiving felt like weakness. The person with the South Node in Cancer and the North Node in Capricorn has the opposite challenge. They have developed profound emotional intelligence, deep capacity for care and nurturing, an extraordinary sensitivity to the needs of others. But the North Node in Capricorn is calling them towards something they have been afraid of: the world, achievement, the willingness to bring their gifts into public form, to build something that lasts, to accept the discipline and the exposure that genuine contribution requires. And so it goes, for every nodal combination across the 12 signs and the 12 houses. Always the same fundamental movement, from what is known toward what is new, from what is comfortable toward what is calling, from the past toward the future. And here is what makes the Nodal Axis so personally precise. Because the South Node describes not just what is comfortable, but what becomes a pattern of avoidance. The South Node, at its worst, is not just a gift. It is a refuge. A place the psyche retreats to when the North Node becomes too demanding, too unfamiliar, too uncomfortable to continue facing. And you can recognize the South Node's pull not by how good it feels, but by a particular quality of diminishment that follows, the sense of having chosen the familiar over the new, the sense of having circled back to what is known rather than continuing into what is being called. The South Node's comfort is real, but it is the comfort of a room you have already explored. The North Node's discomfort is also real, but it is the discomfort of a life that is actually going somewhere. And perhaps the most honest thing that can be said about the Nodal Axis, the thing that makes it genuinely useful rather than merely interesting, is this: you already know which direction you are being called, not because someone told you, not because you read it in a book or calculated it in a chart, but because there is a place in your life that keeps calling to you despite the fact that you keep finding reasons not to go there, a direction that feels simultaneously exciting and terrifying, a version of yourself that you can almost see, almost feel, almost become, and that you consistently find reasons to defer. That is your North Node, not a destination, a direction. And in the next video, we will explore what happens when the universe does not just give you a direction, but seems to send you a message. The phenomenon that Carl Jung spent decades trying to understand. The moment when the inner world and the outer world align in a way that cannot be explained by chance, and what it might mean about the nature of reality itself. Synchronicity,